Hello everybody and welcome back to our Farming Simulator 25 map guide. Today we're going to be taking a look at Ray County, Missouri. But before that, this video is brought to you by Mark Bauer and Mighty Mouse 05. Thank you for being farm barons. So the Ray County, Missouri map can be found over at No Creek Farms itch.io page. And as a result, this is going to be a PC only map. Now let me read you a little bit of the description. Please read the entirety of this description as many questions can be answered below. So I do encourage you to go ahead and visit the link down in the description to this page and read this page description so you get a better understanding. We're going to read most of it here, but again, you probably won't sink in until you read it for yourself. Ray County, Missouri is a standard size FS25 map that is representative of its real life location, Ray County, Missouri. Listed below are features of this project. This map uses real-life elevation data for accurate road, farm, railroad, and field placement. Nearly all buildings on the map are custom-made for this project. This map includes multi-terrain angle. Alfalfa has been added. NH3, also known as anhydrous ammonia, is included with this map. Starter fertilizer, not sure what that is. 2 UAN fertilizers. I'm not a farmer. I'm not a chemist. Again, not really sure what that is speaking to. Corn stalk and soybean straw have been added. Propane is an added fill type and will be used for various productions, as well as a fill type for dry corn. This map does include a custom soil map for those playing with precision farming that really represents more yield zones than soil types. So when we go and show the soil map, this is kind of representation here. You're going to see that the interior of the fields are going to be the best soil for the best yield, and then the fringes are going to be the worst soil or the worst yield, kind of real to life. This map also includes seasonal items for both farmhouses as well as weather effects on paved roads, so there are 2 possible farms to pick from. All farm buildings and decorative items can be sold, can confirm that. Custom weather and adjusted lighting, custom corn, soybean, and alfalfa textures, custom train and rail cars, custom cattle pastures, does not produce slurry or manure. Of course not. You're not going to get slurry or manure out of a pasture. You're not going to go around and scoop it up off the ground. Custom calf weaning pen does produce more manure if you place a custom manure heap placeable. Custom pig enclosure with animated feeder lids. Custom co-op building, accurately based off the co-op in Chula, Missouri. Chahula, and must be purchased farmland 50 in order to access all the co-op features. We have, for example, animated moisture probe on the scales, ability to purchase bulk seed totes, or individual seed bags, the ability to purchase bulk liquid fertilizer, herbicide, or totes, the ability to purchase individual bags of mineral feed, animated catwalk for bulk liquid fill, ability to purchase dry fertilizer in bulk or large bags, ability to dry corn, store grain, and sell grain outright or sell grain by rail. Livestock market with building based off the one in Unionville, Missouri. Can also place propane, anhydrous ammonia, starter fertilizer, UAN fertilizers, and fuel. Please refer to all infographics for information, and those infographics are here on the side. I will pull those up when we get to the appropriate portions of the video to take a closer look at those. Custom pig feed that gives you the flexibility of what you want to use for feed. Animated water in water crossings. Seasonal static deer, turkey, and hunting blinds that may appear at any time. Well, at appropriate seasonal times, of course. Far more accurate land prices, commodity prices, yield, usage rates, and set your economy to hard for the most realistic numbers. And then we'd like to thank you for all the help in getting this project off the road. Now, this map does have some required mods. They are the LJR modding fence pack, linked here to LJR's itch.io page. Also, if you're using precision farming, he has then the Thunder FS precision farming configurator that is linked here also to his itch.io page. And I'll tell you, I'm not really sure what's going on with this. I've read a little bit of this, and It's going to take a lot longer than reading this for me to really sink in and fully understand what's going on. You can download it here. There are instructions. These are the kind of instructions that you kind of already have to know what you're doing before you can do anything in the instructions, because the instructions don't really explain what to do. They just more or less, here's the block of code for non-map mods, and here's the block of code for map mods. Have at it. So again, I've added it to my mod folder. I don't know what else to do with it, but it is listed here. There is a grinder mixer that comes with the map, but if you want to use it on other farms or other maps, then you have a link to that itch.io page coming soon. And I debated about this little rant as to if I should do this or not, and I'm going to. Because you guys, modders and mappers, need to get together and figure some stuff out. There are mods that call out anhydrous ammonia with the fill type name anhydrous. There are mods that call this fill type as NH3. A mod that's been configured to work with anhydrous as the name of the fill type will not work with NH3 as the name of the fill type. A mod that works with NH3 as the fill type obviously won't work reciprocal to a mod that sets anhydrous as the named fill type. You guys need to get together, figure out what you're going to call this stuff, and standardize. We had this issue a while back. Farm Sim 17, Farm Sim 19 with pallets. We had pallets, we had pallet, we have empty pallets. And we basically had 3 mods, all that produced pallets, or all that accepted pallets, but they would accept different types of named pallets. So therefore you might have one pallet factory that would make pallets, and it wouldn't be accepted in a production that took pallets because they were named differently. It's not up to the player to make sure the fill types are named properly. There needs to be naming standards here, and you guys got to get together, figure out how you're going to name this stuff, and standardize. If it's NH3, fine. If it's anhydrous, fine. The player doesn't care. They just want an anhydrous tank that fills with anhydrous and works on a map that has anhydrous. That's all they care about. Rant over. Now there's one other mod that I know of that you're going to need that's not listed here. It's actually down here in the comments. I'm going to put it linked in the description to all of these, and that is going to be the blower you're going to need for the silage silo. So that's also here at BLS Modding's itch.io page. It's going to be this blower. So those are all going to be linked down in the description below. So if you download all those, slap them in your mod folder, then you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever. With that said, let's jump back over here to the map and take a look at the PDA. I was actually rather surprised that this is indeed a standard size map. I was kind of expecting it to be a 4x map, but no, we're looking at a standard size map. We do have all the standard crops available to us in Farm Sim 25, in addition to having alfalfa added here in our crop listings. With respect to our farmland that we own at the start, we own farmland ID 16. This is going to be the main starting farm. Should you choose to load this map up not owning the starting farm, you will be good to know that all of the buildings are pre-placed on this farm. You just do not have any vehicles, nor do you own the land. So I would suggest on toggling on the owning starting farm option when you do play this. That way you will have the land, you will have the buildings, and you'll have the farm machinery at the start. If you don't, well, you can buy this for just a hair under $700,000. There is a second farm that can be bought that's part of Farmland ID 29 and 26. Farmland ID 29 has the field and the farmhouse for $871,000, and Farmland ID 26 has a field and the buildings for that second farm for $140,000. We have a shop that's located right here. It's not listed, or it's not shown with any sort of a hotspot, but there is your vehicle shop is associated right here with Farmland ID 50, which you can buy for $0. And that's also going to be important to buy because there are certain triggers over here at the co-op area that will not show up until you buy Farmland ID 50. Farmland ID 50 also includes the road, and all of the side roads on the map as well. So you're going to be able to fully terrascape or landscape all the way up to the fringes of those. With that said, let's jump back to our starting farm and move on. With respect to our precision farming soil map, as I mentioned, the map author is not so much using this to represent soil types, but more or less to represent yield zones within each particular field. So what you can see is at the fringes, we have the least yielding soil in loamy sand. In from that, just a hair a little bit, we have sandy loam, and then the interior of the fields overall are going to be loam, which is going to yield the most. So this is fairly representative of how you're going to see actual yield mappings of real fields, because if you're around trees or shade or other things like that, well, you're going to get less yield. If you've got very hilly areas, you're going to have less yield as a result. But the heart of your fields, that's going to be where your prime field yield is going to be focused. So that's what we've got represented here with respect to this soil map. We do have the fairly standard FS25 crop counter, which of course does have alfalfa added to it, where we're going to be able to plant alfalfa March through August and harvest year round. With respect to animals, our starting farm has a calf weaning barn, a cow barn, and then we have one pig building that's been separated into a east and west section. So we have also then 2 pig areas. The second farm on this map is arable only. With respect to contracts, we do have contracts available to us, including the new FS25 contracts of deadwood, wood transport, and I'm sure stone crushing is going to pop up here as well. As far as productions, well, depending on the farms you own, well, you're going to have a different number of productions that are owned. There's no productions available outside of the ones at each particular farm. So if you're looking to get into some bakery, for example, you're gonna have to put your own down, because there really isn't land for that, nor is there any of that built in. At our starting farm, we do have a silage silo that's going to take chaff or grass and convert that into silage. At the co-op, if we own farmland ID 50, we have a silo that can store crops, as well as a corn dryer. This is also going to be used to transport product to a train in order to sell at the train sell point at the fringe of the map. We also have multiple bins for grain drying. It's going to dry corn with the use of propane and store regular crops like you see here. And then we have our propane tank, which is just simply for storing of propane for our grain dryers. And depending on which farm you own, is going to be how many of these you're going to have in your productions list. I bought both farms and I had 9 productions plus the propane tank. I don't really count that as a production because it's the same input as output. It's not really doing anything. It's just listed here for storage. With respect to sell points, we basically have 2 main sell points. We have the co-op grain sell point, and we have the grain growers, which is going to be the train sell point. We do have the Husqvarna 550 XP hand tool chainsaw, and while this says that there are 25 collectibles on this map, that is incorrect. The collectibles are not placed on this map. If you do, for example, have easy dev controls and you say to show me all the collectibles, you're going to see some collectibles are going to be popping up on field, gosh, I think it's field 41 or 31. But when you go actually to go look for those, they're actually not there. So it's a little mismatch with respect to the coding in the map file and the collectibles file. Basically, I think there's collectibles defined in the collectibles file that aren't actually placed on the map. With respect to our starting fleet, and this is going to be a little different because I'm actually loading into a save game in order to demonstrate a few things. So I'll point out what's not included in the base equipment when we get to it. But we've got our AGCO 8810 medium tractor. We have the John Deere 3650 small tractor. We have the DK 280 RP trailer. We also have the ProLander 7500 cultivator. We have for our seeding the Solid Stand 1500 Great Plains seeder. And then we have the Optima RS planter. We have the Hardy 5200 Delta Force sprayer for our herbicide and liquid fertilizer. We also have our Massey Ferguson 8570 harvester. That's paired up with the 8570 grain header. And then we have the GA 4731 windrower, the Semez XT 390 rear side mower, and then we have the Alpine Hit 4.4H tedder. We have the Massey Ferguson 1840 small baler, and we have equipped on this map bale storage for small bales. We have a modded Lizard 125 mix all grinder mixer. And this is specifically for mixing our pig food. And we'll talk about our custom pig food here in a little bit. And then something that I have purchased just to demonstrate some of these silos. I've got here the Conveyall and the Meridian. These are not starting equipment. These are just simply here because I was testing and verifying how we would load product into the silos that are here on the map. With respect to mods and DLCs, this map does have the 125 mix all grader feed mixer for our pigs included. And then you're going to need the International 56 blower. And this is what's going to be required in order to put product into the Harvest Store silage silo. And again, this is going to be linked down in the description below. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look here at our starting farm. We load up the map for the very first time. We do start here at our farmhouse. And if we come into our farmhouse, let me try to turn off fast run. Over here on the left, we have our bedroom. And the bedroom, we've got our sleep trigger here, but that turns on the lights. So even though the trigger is right here, I found that we need to be on the other side of the bed in order to access our sleep trigger. And then over here, just off of the kitchen, we have our wardrobe trigger. Although I've been unsuccessful in getting this to pop. I think that there's just too many overlapping triggers here because we've got a door to the garage. We've got a door to the outside. Well, I was able to get that to open, I thought, at one point. And then the rest of this whole area just seems to be active for the lights. So I think we've just got too many triggers overlapping here, and our wardrobe is just not going to pop for us. We make our way outside the farmhouse. We do have our garage, of course. And then over here, we have bale storage. So this is going to be our trigger to activate bale storage, a total of 800 bales. This is going to be our trigger to place bales into storage. Our bales will appear up here in the loft. And this is where our bales are going to come out of storage. And then we have a trigger here to basically place a ladder. And if we go up here into this place, then we can basically open this if we wish to then role play that. So I want to show you the infographic that is related to this area. So as I said, we have the storage management trigger here. Bales will spawn here to retrieve them from storage. Bales will go here to put them into storage. We have our ladder trigger here to put the ladder up so we can get up into the loft and then open the loft door from the inside. We also have the ability to use the underside of this shed for just general storage. We have our Harvest Store silo here. This is a functional storage silo. We will need to put product in the top, and then we'll get product here out the side. So with our Harvest Store, we have our belt to get product out, or silage out. And then we're going to need to put our blower and position it here under this pipe. And therefore we can role play that when we dump product into the blower, it's going to blow it up and over and into the silo. Here we have our cow pasture. So we have room for 170 cows in this particular pasture. We have our feed trough here. We put straw in here as well. But again, this isn't really set up to produce manure or slurry because, well, it's an open pasture. Lovely little pond here. And then we make our way over to the calving barn. And the calving barn is located right here. So we have room for 47 calves. Our straw trigger is going to be located here. Our food trigger is going to be located here on the outside. And we have another functional silo located there. So I wanted to show you the next infographic, which relates to our calves and our pigs. We've already talked about the calving area here. We have our loading, straw, food, the working silo. And then if we're going to put a manure heap here for our calves, we would position it right here along this drive, right here beside the animal loading for the west hog floor. And then we have the east hog floor. These basically mirror each other, so we have animal purchase on both sides of the building. Straw trigger here inside the building. We have our slurry triggers right beside each other. Then our food triggers, where we're going to use the custom mixer in order to mix up pig feed. And then we're going to actually put our pig feed into these feeding tanks from the top. So that's pretty cool. Then we got two functional bins over here to store additional product. So this would be where we would position the trigger for the manure heap. Then we have our pig purchase. So 50 pigs on either side. We have our feed grinder. Remember, we have our straw here. And here. And then we have our slurry point for the east and west, or west and east. And then we have our food. If we come up here, we have open gate, and it's going to lift the top lid up. So we can then use our feed mixer in order to put feed directly into here in order to feed our pigs. So now's probably the best time to talk about our animal feed requirements. Chickens, fairly standard here on the map. Cows, fairly standard. We do have alfalfa hay has been added as a hay substitute for our cows. Horses, we have alfalfa hay as a substitute for our hay for our horses. And then we have pigs. So pigs are going to accept pig TMR through the mixer as opposed to pig feed. And then they're going to accept corn, dried corn, sorghum for our base food. Grain, we're going to supply them barley, wheat, and then protein, canola, soybeans, sunflowers, then root crops, carrot, parsnips, potatoes, red beet, or sugar beets. We do have functional bins here as well. And then with that, let's kind of come around the back of the farmhouse. We've got vehicle shed, machine storage. Then we have our grain silos. You see back there we have our farmhouse. Right, we've got some machine sheds here. Again, all of this stuff can be sold if you want to rearrange how this farm is set up. Around the back of this shed, we have a few small grain bins. And these will load from the top. So I've got the Meridian auger just here to demonstrate. I've already put 12,000 liters worth of wheat into here. If you want to pull product out, I believe you're going to have to put your auger right here at the base of the center of the door in order to pull product out of those bins. We have our propane tank, which is going to be for storing our propane in order to basically power the heaters that are in these blowers in order to dry your corn. And in order to put product into these, you will need to also fill them from the top. So we've got our large convey all auger set up here in order to do that. And each of these is going to unload individually from our output auger here. Each has the interactive icon at the door. Again, we're going to store barley, canola, oat, sorghum, soybeans, and wheat. And for corn, we're going to be basically drying our corn into dried corn with the use of corn and propane as the two inputs. If you want to get rid of your trash, you do have the ability to sell all the trash here at this farm as well. All right, let's get a little bit of altitude here from our starting farm. And we get a good idea of the overall layout there. And if we go now directly kind of in a 45-degree angle to the southeast, we're going to have our second farm that we could buy. A bridge with our railroad tracks. And then this is the second farm that's available on the map. It is an arable farm only. And no, this guy doesn't just leave all his doors open. I actually recorded this segment and then realized that I had left an infographic turned on, so nothing really recorded. But at any rate, we're going to come into this fine farmhouse. We've got the bedroom here around the back. In order to actually use the sleep trigger, we're going to have to be beside the bed as opposed to where the trigger is. And then off into the bathroom, we have our wardrobe trigger. Then we have a nice 3-car garage here. Got a couple sheds for our machinery. We have our fuel storage. We have some silos set up for dry fertilizer. And then if you do own this land, well, you'll have 3 more grain silos. And these, again, will fill from the top and empty from the bottom with an auger. And that is pretty much the secondary farm. Just down the road from the secondary farm, we do have our vehicle dealer. And like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be located on the PDA right there where you can see our arrows at. Just to the west of Field 29. There's not an actual hotspot on the PDA though. So we're going to have our vehicle dealer trigger up front. Let's go ahead and pick something up. Vehicles are going to spawn here around the back. We do have our maintenance trigger right here for our dealer, and then decent sized exit gate to get out of the dealer. You may want to be a little careful in buying order if you're going to be buying lots of big things with respect to here, because of where this spawn point is. In fact, your gate's on that side, or you're going to have to go around the building in order to get out. But I think it's completely manageable if you are conscientious of your decisions in which order you're buying certain things. Got that as far as the exit, but there's also a nice, more open exit over here in order to get the bigger stuff out. You don't have to worry about that concrete on either side. Now, the rest of this map is pretty much agriculture through and through. Nice rolling fields, very organic shaped fields. You see drainage lines in here. And like I mentioned, there's basically 2 sell points. And both of those are here at the co-op, which is over on the western side of the map. So let's make our way over to that now. I see we have a train coming through as well, so we'll be able to get a nice look, hopefully, at the custom train that is also on this map. Nice long train. So here we are at the co-op. And with this, I want to jump back to another infographic that is from the itch.io site that basically tells us where lots of these triggers are. And then we'll just kind of take a closer look at this area for ourselves. So if we work left to right, we have our animal dealer located here under the co-op badge. And we're going to have our loading trigger to buy our animals. This building is going to be for fertilizer and lime. So we have the ability to purchase and spawn bags and totes of dry fertilizer inside the building. Then we also have bulk purchase of fertilizer and lime here as well. We have our anhydrous buy point. We also have a propane buy point at those 2 tanks. We can purchase fuel. Here we have a workshop maintenance trigger located just by the fuel. And then on the other side of that, we have a probe and scale to role play, bringing in here and testing the moisture of your grain, weighing your trailer, and then you're going to be able to come in and dump in one of 2 different triggers. The first trigger is going to be for silo storage or your corn dryer here at the co-op. You're going to need to use this storage in order to put product into the train in order to ultimately sell at the train sell point. There's a trigger just past the storage corn dryer, which is going to be the grain sell trigger. If you do not own Farmland 50, the only trigger that's going to work here is going to be the sell point trigger. If you do buy Farmland 50, then all this other stuff will work. So it's important to denote when you pull up here, make sure you're pulled up far enough so you're selling grain if you intend to sell grain. Otherwise, you're just going to be storing grain. Which, maybe that's not a bad order, right? If you're not selling it, you're storing it. And you want to make sure you don't pull too far in, though, if you do want to sell it or you want to put it onto the train. you want to sell your wood or pallets, well, you're going to be able to do that outside the grate. To rent a train, it's here under this scaffolding. And then we have our grain storage loading. This would be to pull product out of the storage. And then we have a bale sell point. We have our liquid tank and seed building here. So bulk liquid fertilizer, herbicide, and water can be purchased from this point. Bulk seed can be purchased from this point. And then you can spawn individual bags of seed or individual totes and pallets of liquid fertilizer, herbicide, and seed totes here. Clear on that? Let's get a little bit more detail on this area with another graphic. The different angle on the co-op. Pallets and wood are going to be sold here in the gravel. Our grain sell point is going to be the one furthest away from this shed. If we own farmland 50, then we'll also see this pop. This one will be to unload into our dryer and grain storage here at the co-op. We're going to have our rent train trigger there. Our loading of grain from storage at the co-op is here, and our bale sell point is here. So the key is really make sure you're pulled far enough forward if you want to sell grain as opposed to store grain. Now we've had that run through, let's take a look at it in person. So we have an animal buy point. Located right here. We don't have a pop-up for that, but there you go. At the loading dock to buy our animals. This is going to be for solid fertilizer and lime. Here we're going to be able to buy bulk solid fertilizer and lime. Bring your spreader, bring your trailer in. Here you go. If we wish to purchase or spawn fertilizer pallets, we can do that here. So we have our big bag of fertilizer there. This is going to be anhydrous. We have our propane over here. Now, the map doesn't come with a propane tank. You will need to source your own mod to transport propane. There's nothing that's been modified within the base game machinery or trailers to haul propane. We have our fuel. Workshop trigger. This is going to be the scale, and then the moisture probe. This is where we're going to be able to buy bulk seed. This is where we're going to be able to buy bulk liquid inputs, liquid fertilizer, herbicide, water. We have two triggers. The one on the right is going to be to buy seed and mineral feed. And the one on the left is going to be to buy liquid fertilizer and herbicide. So one little bag of seed spawn there. I thought that was cheap. 68 bucks. So we can buy individual bags or multiple bags. Then we have our tote of herbicide that we purchased. Our loading dock. And then we have the co-op sell point and train transfer station. Remember, bales are going to be sold here. This is going to be the pipe to get product out of grain storage. We were train rental here. Sell point there. Storage here. Dryer here. Sell products there. Store and dry products there. This is going to be our interactive icon to sell any wood. Our logs, which are going to be right there. And folks, that's basically Ray County, Missouri, in a nutshell. I'd love to hear what you all think down in the comments below. I like it when we get realistic maps like this to give you a true American or North American agricultural feel. We're not overloaded with a bunch of production and a bunch of other things. We basically have America's heartland, farmland, two nice laid out farms, one with animals, one purely arable, one rather busy but very useful co-op, which has tons of buy triggers and ways of selling your products. And then we have our farm machinery dealer here as well, fairly central to the map. Let me know again your thoughts down in the comments below. Everything you need to download this map and get going with it is linked in the description. All the stuff at itch.io is free, but of course, if you do wish to do a Goodwill donation, by all means, go ahead and do that, not only for the map author, but also the authors of the other mods, which are going to be used in this map. Until next time, happy farming.